Hello everybody, KY Prepper 5 here. Welcome to the channel. Thanks for being here. Today I want to talk about common mistakes that new preppers make. And I can pretty much tell you that I'm guilty of about every one of these. When I first got started 15 years ago anyway. But the first one that I think a lot of new preppers make is they get tunnel vision and they just focus on one item or one area or one thing, and it seems to always be the firearms. Got to have this gun, got to have this vest, got to have this carrier, these magazines, this optic, and a lot of that's got to do with YouTube and people seeing videos and people saying this is what you got to have, and so they spend all their resources and all their time and effort into acquiring firearms and not acquiring food and water and medical and communications and the other things that you need to go along with it. And if you start out and that's the only thing you're concentrating on, and then something happens, you're not going to be near prepared as you think you are. So, you need to spread that out. For instance, if you've got disposable income once a week, 1 week buy some food storage. The second week, buy a box of ammo or a couple boxes of ammo. The third week, buy some medical supplies. The fourth week, work on your water storage. And just keep doing that a little at a time until you get to the point that you want to be at. The next mistake that new preppers make is they're storing food that they don't eat or their family don't normally eat. You're buying a bucket of freeze-dried, 30-day supply of food for 4 people, and you're sticking that in the closet and you think you're good to go, and you've never even tried any of that stuff. You don't even know if you and your family will eat it. And you need to be storing the foods that you normally eat and having that available, because that's the last thing you want to do in a stressful situation, is introduce more stress by not having food that people feel comfortable eating. The next mistake is not rotating your food storage. You get a bunch of canned foods or other foods and you stick them in the closet or stick them in your pantry and say, there we go, we've got 3 months food here and we're not touching it until an emergency comes. Well, eventually that stuff is going to start to lose its flavor, it's going to lose its vitamin content, and it's just going to go bad. So if you're storing the foods that you normally eat, you can rotate that stuff through your kitchen and use it, and use the first stuff you bought needs to come out and the new stuff needs to go in its place. And by doing that, you're constantly rotating that food and keeping it as fresh as possible. The next mistake a lot of people make is they're buying stuff just because they've seen it on a YouTube video, or they read it in a book, or they read it on an article or whatever, and they think, well, I gotta have this pack, I gotta have this plate carrier, I gotta have this rifle, I need this type of food storage, and it's only because somebody else recommended it and they didn't research it or didn't buy what they like or what they think they actually need. It's just because they've seen it on a video somewhere. The next common mistake is people don't get any training and they're not using their stuff. It don't do you any good to have the best medical kit in the world if the only thing you know how to do is put a band-aid on a little cut. You need to get some training. You need to get trained with your firearms. You need to get medical training, attend a good first aid course, become an EMT, volunteer at your local fire department, and actually get some hands-on experience doing medical. Take your pack out and spend a day out with it. Better yet, go out and stay overnight with it and use your gear and see if it works for you or if it don't work for you. If it breaks, just doing an overnight thing, then it's sure going to break if it comes down to your life depending on it. So you need to try your gear, you need to be practicing with your gear, and you need to get training. Another mistake that people make is they're not growing food now. And I understand that may depend on where you're located. You might not have a space to grow food, but you need to If you're in an apartment and you've got a patio, at least grow a tomato plant in a bucket. Learn how to grow food now. People buy these survival seed vaults, or they buy up a bunch of seeds and they put them in storage, and they say, well, if something happens, I'll run out there and start me a garden. There's a whole lot more to it than that. It's a pretty good learning curve on growing food, and you need to be doing that now and learning how and what to do when you get these diseases or these bugs or something happens to your food. And later on, if you're doing that and you and your family's well-being depends on that garden, you need to make sure you're doing the best job possible to grow that garden. Another mistake people make is they think they're going to be able to survive off of hunting and fishing and foraging. You know, they think they can run out there and I'm going to go out there and I'm going to kill me a deer and I'm going to feed my family. I'll tell you right now, they call it deer hunting for a reason. I deer hunt. I have all my life. I've hunted, and I've spent many, many days in a tree stand or out hunting and come home empty-handed and not even see anything. Or if I did see something, it was so far off I couldn't get a shot at it. And if you're not skilled at hunting now, you're not going to have any success when you really need to. And so you really need to be practicing your hunting skills now if you think that's something you're going to do. The other thing is, and I can personally attest to this here in my area, Eastern Kentucky. I'm 56 years old. When I was young and a teenager, there was no deer in this area. There was no turkeys in this area. We sure didn't have any elk or bears. You could kill a squirrel, you could kill a rabbit, and if you was lucky, every once in a while you might get a grouse. And the main reason behind that is all those animals were hunted to extinction, pretty much wiped completely out during the Great Depression. And if you're relying on, I'm going to hunt and fish and forage, do you know what plants is in your area that you can eat, or what's going to make you sick or kill you or one of your family members? You know, and there's a lot of people that's got that idea. And so how many people is going to be out there trying to hunt while you think you're going to be out there trying to hunt? So don't think that that's going to make you a survival. Another big mistake I think a lot of people make is they buy a IFAK blowout kit, first aid kit like that they think they see everybody on these videos has got them. You know, the military's got them, so I need that IFAK. I've got to have that blowout kit to be able to stop a bleed and treat a gunshot. But they don't have any other medical supplies. You should have a well-stocked, robust medical kit prior to buying an IFAK kit, in my opinion. The IFAK kits are great for treating, stop the bleed. You know, treating a gunshot wound, treating any kind of penetrating wound to the chest. Having a tourniquet to be able to stop traumatic bleeding on the limbs. But is that your biggest risk? Is that the most likely injury that you're going to occur? Or is it going to be a smaller cut, a burn, a sprained ankle, sickness? You need to have that stuff covered first, and then if you have the disposable income, then get you a good IFAK blowout kit. But please get your medical gear together and have robust medical supplies available before you consider buying an IFAK. Another common mistake that people make is they don't have enough canning supplies on hand. They're not buying up and storing additional canning jars, especially the lids and the rings and, you know, the canning salt and the items that you need to be able to can and preserve food. If you was canning 2 years ago during the pandemic and the shutdowns and you went out and tried to find some canning supplies, it was near impossible. And so, you know, we've got our plans. We're going to grow this big garden. We're going to harvest a deer. Well, how are you going to put all that stuff up? So you need to have all the canning supplies you need with replacements, because to me you should have probably, and people might think I'm crazy, a minimum of 1,000 canning jars. And then you need to be able to have enough lids and supplies to go with that for 2 to 3 years, because you might not be able to buy any of that stuff or get any of that stuff, and it's not going to do you any good to have a huge garden and only be able to can 30 or 40 jars up. And a lot of people think, well, you know, I can every year and we put up 50 jars and that's all I need. Well, that's true now, because you're supplementing all that with what you're buying in the grocery stores. But if you can't buy anything in the grocery store and you have a good harvest in your garden, you need to have the ability and the supplies on hand to store that stuff away. Another mistake that people make is they don't have books or handwritten notes and stuff on hand that they can refer to as reference materials. I know I used to hear people talk about the idiot box, and they was talking about the TV. Sitting in front of the TV is going to make you an idiot. Well, nowadays, these right here is our idiot box. That or a laptop computer or a tablet, and we download all this information and we've got it all stored away on our computer, or we've got it on our phone. Well, if the grid goes completely down and you don't have no electrical power, how are you going to power that computer up, and how are you going to access that information? You need to have books or handwritten notes and stuff like that on hand that you can reference to. We can every year. Every year I get the Ball Blue book out and reference that book, even though we've done this numerous times. We still need to reference that Ball Blue book and make sure that we're doing it the proper way. You know, I have books on first aid and medical and gardening and growing food and raising animals, and unless you lose that book to a fire or some kind of other damage, that book's always going to be readily available and doesn't require on power to be able to access that information. Okay, everybody, that's just the stuff that I could think of right off the bat. I'm sure there's plenty of other mistakes I've made and mistakes that other people have made. I appreciate you watching. Hit me up in the comments. Let me know what's a mistake that you've made or that I didn't mention, or so that we can try to help everybody out. If you like this video, please like, comment, and subscribe, and thank you again for watching.